NATO is the biggest organized mass killing operation and weapons dealership the world has ever seen. NATO is understood as an international body, almost a legal institution, something that justifies war making, that is purely defensive, that is an alliance of democracies seeking to spread democracy in the world, but to defend themselves, and so forth. None of which is true. It's included colonialists and dictatorships from day one and supported them to this day. It's never fought a war that it even pretended was defensive, although it's fought numerous wars. After its first 40 some years without fighting wars, it now fights them routinely. It's primarily a weapons dealer and weapons promoter and agitator for increasing military spending and moving money from human needs and environmental needs into military spending. A lot of the expansion was funded and lobbied for and campaigned for by organizations created by weapons dealers for the purpose of being able to sell weapons to new countries in the east of Europe. And the weapons are promoted as needing to be interchangeable, and so you end up with US weapons everywhere. This may be starting to change to a slight degree, and you may get Europe making more European weapons, but it's principally lining up weapons deals between countries and primarily the sale of US weapons. But it also is advocating, and you can watch videos of the new current Secretary General of NATO from the Netherlands speaking to the European Union, telling them that European nations are going to need to take money out of healthcare, take money out of retirement, put it into war, take the things that the United States has done wrong and replace the successes of Europe with them. Take, the success that Europe has had in funding human needs and developing better and happier and longer and healthier lives and more sustainable environment, and get rid of all that and copy the United States. Don't come to the United States and see all the people starving and homeless on the streets, but pretend all is well and copy the United States and move your money into militarism. The United States government, the other Western governments, the corporate media outlets treat wars as legal if NATO or some other big coalition of willing nations takes part in them, as if committing a crime is not a crime if you get a whole gang to do it with you. And so NATO has gone on to wage wars. That is, NATO supports and many NATO members take part in wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya and so forth. It got started in Yugoslavia and Kosovo. It engaged in a massive illegal bombing. It lied about the justifications, exaggerating and fabricating crimes by the other side that were supposed to justify what it did. And it sought to establish the power to legalize its own wars. It's only invoked its Article 5, we must all fight in this war once, and that was for a U.S. war on the impoverished nation of Afghanistan halfway around the world. It's not a force of law or democracy or stability. It's the biggest organized mass killing operation and weapons dealership the world has ever seen. NATO is supposed to have members that are in Europe apart from the United States and Canada, but it has partners all over the globe. So it's in recent decades enlarged its membership from 12 to 32, but also added dozens of partners, which are essentially members under a different name that NATO is not obliged to join in the wars of unless it wants to, but that it can work with. And they include the most brutal dictatorships and offending war-making nations on Earth. Israel has offices and does business with NATO in NATO headquarters in Belgium. Israel is a big tester, demonstrator of weapons, seller of weapons, buyer of weapons through NATO, which again is primarily a weapons dealing organization, and NATO has been a supporter of Israel's war making from day one. And you have U.S. threats and U.S. bribes. You have Sweden able to join if it gives more weapons to Turkey. You have nations able to join if they shut down media outlets that other members don't want operating in their country. And the U.S., you can just about predict who's going to be the next Secretary General, who's going to be a member or not, what wars are going to be engaged in or not, by what the U.S. wants. So when the U.S. wants a war in Libya, it gets a war in Libya. Some NATO members want it, some don't. It's not a collective NATO decision. There's no democracy within NATO or on NATO's agenda, but it's the U.S. Beyond being a war-making organization and a weapons-dealing organization, NATO is a propaganda-creating organization, and people should watch NATO's website and NATO's social media and the media articles and reports that are generated by NATO with very open eyes, very skeptically, and be aware of what's being pushed on them. Understand that some of us are old enough to remember, as if it were 10 minutes ago, when military spending was in dollars or dollars per capita. But now it's percentage of the economy because NATO says it should be a percentage of the economy, whether it makes any sense or not. And you need to follow what we do if you want to get to World War III. But it's defensive. This is nonsense, but it's repeated in so many videos and interviews and headlines that people start to believe it without thinking through what it is. Become media NATO skeptics. There will be a counter summit and numerous meetings and cultural events and a big demonstration march in The Hague against NATO. Not to reform it or fix it or tweak it, but to shut it down, to get rid of it, to approach security through sane, nonviolent means, to support diplomacy and the rule of law and serious negotiations rather than endless militarism and armament and nuclear armament.